Say hi, David.
Hey.
Air reporter David Cobb is joining us to talk about some bike lane brouhaha. But first, sketchy, okay?
Ellis just looked up how to spell brouhaha, by the way.
It still makes me laugh. It's a funny word.
A lot of integrity
funny
there.
word, yeah.
It's a journalist.
Integrity with a capital E.
There's another word I'm going to throw at you, or two words to be exact. Push polling. Do you guys know what push polling is? David?
I don't.
Dan Henry, photographer? Push polling?
No idea.
Anybody? Ellis Smith knows what push polling is. He's very versed in the subject. And it's getting a little nasty.
Yeah, so push poll is where you call somebody up, ostensibly, to find out their opinion on things. Like, hey, Shaquem, do you prefer vanilla ice cream or strawberry ice cream? And you're like, well,
He likes
okay.
chocolate.
You're like, okay, strawberry. And then I'm like, what if I told you that the strawberries were made from the blood of children? Would you
Ellis.
still choose, strawberry? And you're like, whoa, where did that?
Hello.
It's always going to be vanilla.
Yeah.
Oh, I like
So they
chocolate.
basically, so it starts out as a poll, and then it slowly, you start to kind of insinuate, like, what if I told you that, political candidate David Cobb was once caught for a DUI. He wasn't really, this David Cobb was not, but I'm just using him as an example.
Right.
Would you still vote for him over Leslie Dale? And then you're like, whoa, I didn't know that. What an interesting poll. Thank you so much. So the idea is you're polling, but you're actually pushing information out there. It's a very common thing, I hate to say.
And
in
it
political
really
campaigns.
isn't.
It's considered a dirty trick.
So it's not all
But-
about the ice cream and the sugar, really.
Yeah, it's considered a way to maybe put information about your opponents out there. People are more receptive to polls because they think, oh, look, an unbiased source who is trying to just find out information and just learn. And then as you go along, so they're receptive, they're listening, and then as you go along, you're able to communicate information to them that maybe you couldn't do with a billboard or a political ad on television.
And this one is not a sugary sweet topic.
No.
What's going on is Christy Wilkinson, she's the Democratic candidate in the 10th District State Senate race, accusing Republican opponent incumbent Todd Gardenhire of using scare tactics and slander through push polling. Wilkinson says she's had calls from several voters about this. In a transcript we have for you on the web, is that available right now, 14-minute telephone survey provided by Wilkinson. The poll taker asked whether a voter is more likely to vote for Gardenhire, quote, a Christian whose religious values often serve as the basis of his voting decisions, or Wilkinson, quote, why don't you share the rest with us?
A nihilist who rejects there is a God and rejects all religious values and moral principles.
Okay, so that's not about ice cream.
So
it's pretty strong.
if you hear that, you might think, wow, these are really loaded questions. And yeah, they're supposed to be. It's a push poll. So you might get a call from somebody. It may not be Gardenhire. It could be anybody. But this is just an example of something that someone's brought up. Because this one, I guess she felt it was a little bit outrageous, the way that was worded. And but you may get some of these phone calls, just if you have a landline or on your cell phone or whatever. And so just be aware that, as you're answering these questions, if they start to sound, more and more like, wow, this person's really going after that, that's probably what's happening. You've probably been targeted in a push poll. They thought that you were a likely voter who might be willing to switch your vote or your affiliation given the right information. So that's what's going on. It's just it's a political tactic.
And it goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
If you haven't hung up your phone when you've gotten one of these, because most of us probably have, it's 14 minutes long. We are going to post the entirety of it for you on timesfreepress.com. Another question is on this, would you vote for a person born and raised in Chattanooga Public Schools and the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga, or a person who moved to Chattanooga from Detroit and was educated in other parts of the country?
So you're playing the outsider card. You're saying, this is, do you want to vote for one of us, or do you want to vote for this outsider carpetbagger or whatever? That's kind of, and so it's just a very similar strategy. You're using that poll to kind of communicate this information to a likely voter.
And we do want to mention, too, we have reached out to Senator Gardenhire for his response about this, and we have not been able to get a hold of him at this time. So if we do get a response about this push polling, we will let you know. And, this is what happens. It's election.
So now you know about push polls. We all learned something today.
We learned. And now we're going to go on to brouhaha. using all sorts of terms today.
How's that spelled?
BROUHAHA, brouhaha.
Now
Next
you
question.
know. Next question. Okay. So David Cobb, that's why you're here. All right. We have received a lot of comments on the digital team here on Facebook. Yesterday we told you about a Highland Park group who created a Facebook page about their likes or dislikes about potential bike lanes, MLK, and Bailey. But I do want to make it clear, our Facebook friend says the page is called Highland Park Chattanooga, and it's about everything going on in Highland Park, not just the bike lanes, but the bike lanes are a very heated topic
They're integral.
on this page. So, a lot of people are happy about the potential, correct?
Yeah, I think
So what are the sides? Maybe we should talk about, what are the sides here that people are taking? Because there are apparently battle lines being formed, right?
I'm looking at the group right now, Highland Park, Chattanooga. I asked to join, but I haven't been approved yet, so. Okay.
Well, if you step inside the world of the people over in Highland Park or the ML King neighborhood, or maybe talk to some of those merchants or talk to the city's transportation department, which is what I did as I was reporting on this topic, you hear it framed less as a bike lane project and more as one of several terms. One of them is a road diet project. The other one is a right-sizing project. You've heard it termed, a safety project. So that's kind of the angle from which the proponents of the proposal are coming at it. They're saying, hey, sure, bike lanes might be a part of this, but it's about slowing down traffic, creating a safer, more pedestrian and cyclist-friendly sort of neighborhood. So that's the approach from which most of the proponents are coming at it. I don't think they're necessarily coming at it from a standpoint of like, oh, all of our bicycle commuters are now going to be able to make it downtown more safely to get to work. That's certainly an element to it, but that's not what the proposal revolves around, I don't think, in their minds.
Okay.
In my discussions.
So playing devil's advocate, which a lot of people on that page do not like, some drivers are not for it, who have told us, they go down MLK to work or to pick their kids up from school,
It's their morning commute.
downtown, and
Or afternoon commute.
they say it already takes enough time, and there's a lot of construction going on downtown too. So some people have an opposite opinion. They don't want to slow it down. Have you talked to people like that too, or are you finding more proponents, like you said?
Well, from talking directly to the people who would be affected by it, I found way more proponents than opponents. But certainly there is a large faction of our local population who only use ML King and Bailey Avenue as through streets, commuter streets, and so maybe they don't live along there, but they still have to travel along that road to get to their destination on a daily basis.
That goes through the Brainerd Tunnel. I mean, if you're trying to get to Lee Highway, that's your route.
The proposal would go, it's about a 2.5 mile stretch. It would start downtown right out of our window here over at ML King and Douglas, or ML King and Georgia, ML King and Georgia, and it would go 2.5 miles to Dodds Avenue.
To Dodds.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's not through the tunnel, so it stops on this side
Correct.
Of the tunnel. So it would not go through to Brainerd Road.
Well, David Kopp's going to stay on that for you. Where are we at with the proposal?
Well, here's the thing that I think a lot of people maybe don't understand about it, and it's confusing, but the reason the city council doesn't have to vote yes or no on this road proposal is because in 2014 the city accepted a federal grant for, I believe it was for $1.2 million. It's the acronym is CMAQ. It's Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality. So it was to, in theory, alleviate traffic congestion by providing multimodal means of transportation and therefore improve the air quality. So the grant was to develop bike lanes. So the city's not hiding from the fact that bike lanes are a part of this project. But the reason the city council doesn't have to vote yes or no on it is because when the city council voted to accept that grant in 2014, they sort of got blanket approval for all these projects that you've seen, like the one on Broad Street, the proposal on Fraser Avenue that was shot down, and this ML King Bailey proposal is also under that blanket as well. So the public comment period ends today on that. So you'll see the city officials make their final sort of decision on that going forward. Personally, I think they're going to go ahead with this one just because the folks out there on ML King and Bailey, the residents, the merchants, they're more on board with this than the merchants and the residents were over on the North
Fraser,
Shore
yeah.
when Fraser was being discussed. So certainly the public still has some concerns. Maybe the commuters don't like it. It might take a little bit longer to make your drive through on King and Bailey, especially during the morning and evening commutes. But at the end of the day, that's sort of what the proposal is designed to do, is to slow down traffic.
Okay, so they're listening to
Now
them.
there's some just to bring one more confusing element into this. There's
Great.
also some like commercial benefits, right? So if your traffic is slowed down and you go to one lane in the middle with a turning lane in the middle and 2 lanes going in either direction on the sides, that has the added benefit for businesses in that area of people going a little slower, and maybe they see that you're open for business, or that you have a sale in the window, or hey, that looks like a nice place. I've always sped past it at 50 miles an hour. Now I'm going 35, and so I think there's a hope that maybe there'll also be a revitalization effort to this. People are more likely to walk around a street when traffic's not going a million miles an hour, and spewing dust and smog all over them. Same thing in a neighborhood like Highland Park. Your kids, you're not going to be as worried about your kids playing outside if traffic is moving at an amicable sort of medium pace, versus using it as a quick exit to get out of town. So that kind of enters into this as well. So a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I just remembered you talking about just the neighborhood element of it. Just Friday night, there were 2 cyclists headed down Bailey Avenue in the Highland Park area, and they were struck by a motorist. It was kind of around the sundown time of day,
9
it was
o'clock,
like
8 o'clock,
8:30,
yeah.
And so anyway, that sort of underscored, I think, in the minds of some of these residents, the need for this project. They came out after that, more strongly than ever, saying, hey, we want this to go forward. And to your point before that about the commercial district, you see a lot of new money and sort of energy right out here on ML King Boulevard. This large Douglas Heights apartment complex is housing hundreds of UT students, young professionals, people like that who are, walking around this area. Obviously, there's a relatively new Hutton and Smith brewery out there. Another microbrewery is on the way. There's a lot of sort of energy and money.
Shout out to Larry's Hot Fish. Your fish are awesome, Larry.
Yeah. I think I read Chat
We need to start
Smokehouse
doing
is
more
doing some
restaurant
stuff.
stories.
So yeah.
New restaurants. We've been talking about that.
Yeah.
Just another thing.
Tune in next week.
Yeah. Well, thank you. You surely
Are y'all kicking me out? Is that
No, you're staying around. We want you to talk about everything we're
I have
talking
to
about.
go write stuff for tomorrow's paper.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
If y'all read today's paper, you might have seen that that guy Pat Finnegan, who was trying to play 72 holes of golf today, walking the entire way. Well, I just got back from the golf course, talked to him. He was on hole 43 of 72 and said he felt great. So,
Ooh.
yeah.
Tough.
I'll try and get an update
I
on
hope
that.
you stay
That
hydrated
sounds
out there.
cool.
It's pretty hot.
Any other biker news? I heard you talking to our assignment editors.
I'm going to see if I can work up a story on Saturday morning. Watch out for these folks on the road. There's going to be about 200 cyclists, maybe more, leaving from Finley Stadium to travel U.S. Bike Route 21, which goes south towards Atlanta. It's sort of a new thing. It's called a bike route, but it utilizes regular roads. So be on the lookout for them if you're driving around Saturday morning. And I might.
Okay.
If I have time, I'm going to
Be on the lookout.
That, so
Okay.
No promises.
Bolo.
It's not busy at all.
Anything coming up that you want to tell people to look out for?
So y'all were trying to kick me out, and now you just have all
Well,
this.
David Cobb. Okay, so David Cobb's our outdoor reporter, and he does a lot of
Can you
really
tell?
interesting. He does a lot of really interesting stuff, and I know so many of you moved to Chattanooga or have friends who moved to Chattanooga because of all the cool outdoor stuff. David Cobb's always working on something
running around,
pretty neat
literally.
that affects a lot of the people who come here for climbing, for biking. So look for his byline.
I get to wear shorts to work.
He gets to wear shorts to work.
Phenomenal. Oh yeah, next week the Ironman Chattanooga is coming up next Sunday. I've got a couple stories coming up in the paper next week about that.
For all your Ironman news, this guy.
See, we knew you had more in you.
And what's the hashtag? Is it I am Chew?
Yeah,
Please
yeah.
tell me it's not. Is
I
that
think
really
it is.
Oh gosh.
I haven't personally gotten real involved in using the Ironman hashtags.
I am Chew is the one they like almost as if you were sneezing. I'm sure there's more thinking behind it than that.
Yeah, it's like choo choo, Chattanooga choo choo.
The choo choo.
My nose
But that's
itches.
2 chews. They've chosen to use 1
Okay.
chew.
Oh.
Anyway.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. We appreciate
Thank
it.
you. And we want to thank the Highland Park viewers, readers for keeping on telling us that you care about this. I'm not approved to join the group yet, but we welcome.
But if you're out there, you should let her join the group. She's really nice.
And
doesn't argue a lot. Do you argue a lot?
Not here.
Doesn't argue publicly.
But we want to cover this objectively, obviously, and that's why we brought David Cobb in to share all the factual information he's gathered today. And if anybody wants to come in and join us at the roundtable here, residents concerned about any stories that you read, please email us, ldale@timesfreepress.com, esmith@timesfreepress.com, dcobb@timesfreepress.com. We want to hear from you, and we'd welcome you to come speak with us. So keep that in mind. And now we're going to talk about some digital news, since us two are on the digital team here at the TFP. Okay, Twitter has a new app that you'll be able to stream NFL on Thursdays. It's coming to Xbox One, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, where viewers will be able to watch, like I said, NFL Thursday nights. The short messaging service, this is how they say it's secured and works, has the rights to stream 10 Thursday night games this year in attempts to broaden its appeal. It's hoping that live video of sports and other events will stimulate more interest in this service. So just another digital thing. We're trying to keep up. It's evolving minute to minute, it seems like.
Yeah, it's interesting, the Xbox is on there. There was a big announcement of a partnership between Microsoft and the NFL where you could actually do your fantasy football stuff on the Xbox as well.
Oh.
And there's a lot of new media interest, I think. With the decline in traditional cable subscriptions, people are kind of cutting the cord and maybe moving to an internet-only connection. They're trying to find new ways of reaching people where they are, and in this case, a lot of people are on Twitter where they used to watch TV. Maybe they're just catching up with the show on Twitter or streaming it somewhere on their Xbox, using their Netflix app, and so they're kind of trying to reach that audience that maybe has moved away from them. It's very smart. That's smart business.
Yes, so we are following all of the digital trends, trying to evolve with them and evolve with you. And speaking of football, today we just came off Boyd Buchanan's campus, the Buccaneers. We talked to Coach Cardwell. He was great. Talked to some of the players. So hard to get a rise out of them before the game.
They're so stoic. They're so stoic. We're gonna stick to our game plan. We're gonna play the game like we've been trained to do, just like Coach told us. We're not gonna let them affect us.
Soldiers.
How many times have you heard that? They've learned the script. So
we're thinking about giving a congeniality award if we come across
whoever's
a player.
the most animated football player that we interview next week, we will have a treat for you. Maybe a Chick-fil-A gift card. Maybe not. Maybe not a Chick-fil-A gift card. Maybe something else. But
so if you want to check that out live, you can always go to Chattanooga Times Free Press Facebook page, and whatever we do live lives there. So
and the coach was awesome.
Yeah,
he was so much
good.
fun.
He was really good. He was real. A lot of the coaches have such a story behind them, and it's really cool to hear them talk about how they balance their entire lives as well as the team and everything they have going on. They're really passionate about the schools, especially today, Boyd Buchanan. We talk about some of the development that's going on there too. They're transitioning to be Division II. So there's a lot that goes into that as far as enrollment and the campus. So we get into that as well with Coach and with our sports editor, the best, Stephen Hargis. He knows every player, every team, everything, local sports. So continue to follow us with that, and that's all we have today for you, and we'll be back at 11. It's almost the weekend, guys. Almost there. Okay. See you at 11. Bye.